Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Alex and Networking. I'm your host, Alexander Pavlok, and this episode is a follow-up episode to the previous one that I released around Cisco Meraki's new product called Access Manager. Most of the configurations that I've already gone through are in that video along with explaining the product, so go ahead and reference that video if you need a refresher. This is a follow-up episode onto that one. We're just going to be covering username and password authentication through Cisco Meraki's product Access Manager. So let's go ahead. Let's just get right into it. All right. So let's just go through the basic configurations again. This is going to be very quick. So if you go to wireless and access control, we're just going to set our SSID to authenticate against Access Manager. So very simple, super easy. All you're going to do here is select Access Manager, and this is going to authenticate clients against Meraki's Radius server, which is Access Manager. The default VLAN ID is going to be 22 on this SSID. We're going to be doing some dynamic VLAN tagging, so it's good to know that the default is 22, so we can validate if our dynamic VLAN tagging is working correctly. So this is the basic access control configuration for your SSID. Next thing that we're going to want to do is through Systems Manager. If you're using Systems Manager, this will be beneficial for you, or you can just see how to configure your other MDM services and what the endpoint needs to be configured as. So here you can see that we have our Access Manager certificate. So this was downloaded from the Access Manager certificates page. You download that here. And then you will also need to upload your own internal CA certificate to Access Manager. So you can go ahead and upload your certificate here. You can see mine is uploaded and selected. So let's hop back to the Systems Manager configuration on the endpoint. So we have our Access Manager configuration here for the certificate. We also have our root CA certificate being pushed to the endpoint. The last step here is going to be the actual SSID configuration. So it's the radius test. We're going to disable MAC address randomization. This is optional but recommended so you can actually track clients on your network. And then the security type will be WPA2 Enterprise. The protocols, you can leave these all checked off. And then the inner authentication is going to need to be PAP. So select PAP for username and password authentication. Under authentication, you can pre-configure username and passwords in here if you would like to for your users, or you can leave this blank and it will prompt them when they try to connect to the SSID. And then under trust, you'll need your two certificates here. So the Access Manager certificate and your internal CA certificate, have those checked off and uploaded here. And the eep.meraki.com is going to be the trusted server name attached to the certificate. So you'll need that in there along with your internal domain names. Once you have that configured, you can go ahead and save that and make sure that this is pushed out to your devices before you start testing. You can easily check that if you go under Systems Manager Devices and then look at your profiles and make sure that those are up to date. So you can see that those are up to date. Next part, we went through this in the original video, but I'll go through this again very quickly. To do username and password, we're going to integrate with Azure's Entra ID. So we need to sync your Azure Entra ID along with Access Manager. So if you go under Access Manager Users, this is where you're going to configure your IDP sources. So you're going to do create IDP, and then in the Azure side, you're going to go to Enterprise Applications, New Application, create your own application, give it a name. Create. For these purposes, I'm just going to use my already configured application here. So open this up. You'll need your application ID. You can go ahead and fill that in here. Your tenant ID will be your object ID. So you can go ahead and fill that in here as well. And then for your client secret value, you'll need to configure that. Let's go under our app registrations and then hop back into the Access Manager here. And then under certificates and secrets, you'll do new client secret. Let's just create a new one here called test demo, and we'll just do 90 days for this demonstration purposes. So you'll see it here, the value here, copy that, hop back over, enter that in for your client secret value. The next configuration you're going to need to do is give the API permissions to Access Manager. So you're going to do add permissions, Microsoft Graph, and then app permissions. And then you are going to need to add these three. And then under delegated permissions, you can add this one. Once you have all four of those configured, grant access. And at this point, you can hop back over, test the connection. Should be successful at this point, and then you can save. And then let's hop back into our enterprise application. And now we're going to need to actually assign users and groups to this application using Access Manager. So under add users and groups, this is where you're going to add whatever users and groups that you want to allow access into Access Manager. So you're going to configure that here and then assign. I've already assigned my 3 users, which are here, and then it also imports their groups. Once that is complete, you can come under Access Manager users. And then at the top here, you'll see synced, and you'll see that it pulled in my 3 users, their sources from the Entra ID, and then the user groups that these are assigned to. So that's looking all good now. The next thing that we're going to want to do is now configure our actual access rule. So you can see I've configured a new rule here. It's called username and password. You can click add a rule, and then this is what the configuration looks like. So you can give it a name. Status is enabled. Your attribute source is going to be Entra ID. And then in this scenario, we're matching against the username and password along with the group. So the group is going to be corp users. It will automatically show you the valid user groups that is pulled in from your Entra ID. It'll list them all here. I just have one, so it's called corp users. So I have that selected off, and I have this to match against any group. You could do, it needs to match all groups that you've configured here as well. And then in the bottom here, you can set it to allow access. I'm going to, in this example, I'm going to push down a specific VLAN ID that I want to be on, along with a specific SGT tag or adaptive policy, which will be the engineer group. This is optional, but this is just showing you what you can do with Access Manager. So let's go ahead and save that. Awesome. Now on your endpoint, this is going to be for Mac, obviously. It'll be different for Windows, but on a Mac, you can come to network and then network settings for this SSID. Let me go ahead and connect to this first. Looks like it had trouble connecting there. Let's just try this again. Looks like it's having trouble joining. Let's try to look at the Access Manager session logs and see what's going on. So I'm getting a failed username and password, and you can see I'm passing in this username. So I may have configured the incorrect password in my settings. So let me go ahead and update that. And let's push this down to my endpoint. So you can see up to date says no now because I just made that update. So let's push it down. Let's refresh. This usually takes a minute. Okay, you can see that we're up to date now. So let me go ahead and try to connect to this again. Awesome. Looks like we were successful that time. So let's hop back to the session logs. And you can see that we are successful now. It matched against my username password profile. And you can see my username was Miles. And if we click on it, you can open this up and get a little bit more details about this authentication attempt. Let's hop into my access point and make sure that we were assigned to the correct VLAN and adaptive policy tag. So you can see here, as I showed you before, the default value is 22 for this VLAN. I changed that with this authentication attempt to VLAN 24. So you can see that I did get assigned to the correct VLAN if we scroll over, and I am also assigned to the correct adaptive policy group, which is 24. So that's going to be it for this video. Again, this was meant to be just a follow-up video to the original Access Manager video. So if you need to reference any cert-based authentication or just learn about setting up the product more in general, you can go reference that video. Hope this was informative for you. Like always, if you have your own experiences with Access Manager or 802.1x in general, go ahead and leave a comment on the video. These are meant to be collaborative and just set everyone up for success in the network engineering field. So in closing, I'd just like to recap and highlight how easy it was to integrate enterprise-grade security into the Meraki suite with Meraki's new product, Access Manager. And to close out, I would just like to say, happy networking.